Mark Carney and everyone else in the Liberal Party is now talking about economic growth. Gosh, it only took 10 years in government and a raft of horrendous economic statistics to do it. But there is one huge obstacle that stands in the way of translating that political rhetoric, wishful thinking, into actual practical results. You know what? And I can't find anyone who's talking about it. I'm speaking specifically about Mark Carney and the Liberals' serious lack of trust/credibility gap with investors, and it's huge. Now, let me backtrack a bit and say that for all the talk of reviving economic growth, that really starts with understanding you got to attract capital investment to Canada. And if you don't get that, well, go back to the ideological echo chamber circa Berkeley 1960. You can't start a store or a catering business or a coffee shop or big or small manufacturing plant, hair salon, a mine, or a pipeline without people willing to make the capital investment. And they won't do it if they don't have confidence. And confidence is eroded, even destroyed, when government changes things like taxation on investment or business, or increases the cost of the regulatory burden. All features of the Liberal government over the past several years. And people aren't going to forget it. Sorry, in saying that, I'm thinking I've probably lost every self-described progressive Labor leader and many in the media who are saying, what do you mean increases in taxes or the cost of regulation makes Canada less attractive to investors? Come on, it's a straightforward concept. I don't care if you voted Conservative, you voted NDP, you voted Green Party, doesn't matter. You don't make investments with people you don't trust. Simple as that. I mean, especially after they changed the rules in the past or midstream, that makes the investment a no-go, especially more than once. Now, let's bring that directly to the problem the Liberal government is facing, meeting their promises of growing the economy without private sector investment. It's not going to happen, especially in the oil and gas, mining, lumber sectors. Investors haven't forgotten Northern Gateway, which received conditional approval from Cabinet. Well, Enbridge went through all the government regulatory hoops, including 180 days of National Energy Board hearings across 17 communities. Enbridge's costs, included legal fees, technical studies, shareholder outreach. But after Enbridge was spent, an estimated $500 million, the Trudeau government just simply revoked Cabinet approval. I mean, it's incredible. It was following a federal court ruling that they had to do more talk with Indigenous populations. But there's also the real nut thing was the revocation was cemented by Trudeau's imposition of a tanker ban in British Columbia's north coast. Well, that was it for the project. The hostile reputation of the Liberal government towards oil and gas was further cemented after Kinder Morgan faced a similar experience. They spent $1.1 billion, but they decided not to proceed with the Trans Mountain pipeline. There was too much opposition, constantly changing criteria. I'll give you one more quick example. How many investors want to repeat the experience of TransCanada Pipe, now TC Energy, who after spending over $1 billion on a proposed cross-Canada pipeline, abandoned in 2017 after the federal government introduced even more regulatory changes? It's against that backdrop. Consider the message this past week to potential oil infrastructure by Minister Stéphane Guilbeault, who stated that Canada doesn't need any more pipelines because peak oil would happen in the next few years and that Kinder Morgan pipeline is operating at roughly 40% capacity. This is a cabinet minister. It's also nonsense what he said. I mean, Trans Mountain Pipeline is operating at 77% capacity, not 40. They got a forecast of higher capacity by the end of the year, and they got signed long-term contracts eating up the rest of the capacity. As for peak oil demand, estimates range from the next 10 years, maybe it'll happen, but the next 50. But that's not the point. The point is, given the track record of the Liberal Party's hostility towards oil and gas, along with Mark Carney's strong statements against fossil fuels, this government's got a heck of a lot of work to do to gain the confidence of any investors it needs to grow the Canadian economy. And the overall task of attracting investment to revive the economy is made even more difficult by the fact that the Trump administration is committed to lowering U.S. corporate and individual taxes. They're reducing the cost of the regulatory burden. That makes Canada even less attractive versus the U.S. when it comes to attracting capital investment. This is the real world, is my point. not political spin when it comes to capital investment decisions. Even with labor and assets effectively on sale in Canada by what, about 30%, thanks to the weak dollar, it hasn't been enough to reverse Canada's decline in capital investment, especially compared to the US. Unless there's a sharp break from past Liberal policies and from Mark Carney's own anti-fossil fuel talk and transforming capitalism, Canada's going to continue to struggle to attract capital and drive growth. Because when political ideology collides with the harsh realities of investment and economics, one thing always happens: economics win. I mean, look at the Trump retreat on tariffs right now. That proves the point.